Hey guys, Chris here, and I'm Ukrainian Canadian. Today is April 21st, 2024, and let's get to the news happening in Ukraine, shall we? So we can finally exhale. The House has passed the $61 billion aid for Ukraine yesterday, a huge morale boost, and I'm very happy that it's finally over. Not only was the aid for Ukraine passed, but also for Taiwan and Israel. So the United States is sending a very strong message, a strong signal that it will be backing its allies. So Ukraine can now focus on strategies and start putting the pieces together to plan future offensives in the following months. So this is super good news. Additionally, you can see that basically the United States supported this bill with overwhelming support, 311 votes to 112 votes. So again, we can see that there was overwhelming support for Ukraine from the United States, whether it's Republicans or Democrats. They have worked together to vote for this. And the other thing that is very important is that it's also sending a message to European allies and other Ukraine allies that where there was some uncertainty in the last few weeks because they didn't know if the United States would abandon Ukraine, they now can say with confidence and feel that confidence that if the United States is backing Ukraine, we can back Ukraine as well. So France, Germany, Scandinavian countries, Baltic countries, Poland, Italy, countries like Japan, South Korea can feel far more confident right now that we can support Ukraine as well. So this is the real support that Ukraine needed. And thankfully, we can see that there's a lot of confidence right now within the West. And last but not least, we know that the Russian elites are going to be extremely unhappy against Putin right now. Tensions will rise within the Kremlin. Why? Because also the Ukrainians can now utilize $300 billion worth of frozen Russian assets against Russia. And this is the real war chest for Ukraine that will allow the Ukrainians to prevail in the long run. This is a war of attrition after all. We know that there isn't going to be any blitzkriegs anymore. It's going to be a long war. And it's still going to be a few years down the line before we see Ukraine prevailing against Russia. But we can say with confidence now that with this $61 billion aid by the United States, this $300 billion worth of frozen Russian assets that can be now used by Ukraine to support its war and also basically support itself, that in the long run, Ukraine can prevail against Russia. And we could see inner mutinies in the following months within the Kremlin, because you can bet that these oligarchs are going to be extremely unhappy that the stolen money that they've managed to accumulate is now going to be used against them. And they cannot tap into it anymore. So you can already see officials like Peskov, Medvedev, the ex-Russian president, Zakharova, they're throwing tantrums today. And now I think it was Medvedev who said that he's hoping that there will be civil war within the United States and that Russia needs to destroy the United States. So they're kind of going back into their former selves. Well, they've always been like that, but it really shows you how the Russian elites, the Russian officials did not have a plan B. They really bet it all on basically hoping that the United States will just abandon Ukraine and that they could prevail like that, because of course Russia has more resources than Ukraine alone. And it is backed as well indirectly by China, directly by North Korea, by Iran. So if the world would abandon Ukraine, for sure Russia would have prevailed in the long run. So overall, yesterday was a huge day, very important, and I'm very glad that the right decision was taken, and that I'm very confident right now that Ukraine in the long run will prevail against Russia. So last but not least, there's some other good news today that I want to pass on before I end this video. So Ukraine hit another Russian ship in Sevastopol today. And so Ukraine continues its tradition of destroying the remainder of the Russian Black Sea Fleet. And they damaged today one of the oldest active Russian ship dating from 1915. And this ship is the Kommuna, which is essentially a salvage ship, which was also part of the operations to recover the Moskva, but essentially this one won't be doing any operations in the future because it most likely has been damaged. The extent of the damage is unknown, but certainly being that it's extremely old and the Russians don't really have any ability and capacity to rebuild ships in a fast timeline, it's pretty much a lost asset for the Russians. So we know that the Russians have moved most of their ships from Sevastopol to other ports much further away from Crimea, that is Novorossiysk, and also a new port that they've been building in Abkhazia and occupied Georgia in the port of Ochamchire. So essentially the Russians have fled completely. They know that the Ukrainians have full fire control over Crimea, in that none of the Russian ships are safe now. So this is obviously just a matter of time, because now we know that the Ukrainians will receive in the following weeks massive shipments of US aid, missiles, ballistic missiles, armored vehicles, weapons, shells, and the Ukrainians will restock, and they will have all the pieces necessary to destroy the Kerch Bridge. We know that this is a very important strategic structure that the Ukrainians need to destroy. And so I am feeling super confident now that by the end of July, as it's been told by the Ukrainian intelligence, the HUR, that they will destroy it by the end of July. So now it's just a matter of time of waiting and hoping that we can wake up in the next few weeks and see this bridge finally destroyed, which will certainly weaken the Russians even more in the south of Ukraine. That is not to say that the Russians don't have other avenues. We've talked about the fact that they've been building a new railway connection from Rostov to Kherson and Crimea as a secondary route, because they are anticipating the Ukrainians to successfully destroy the bridge. So the Russians have other avenues, but these routes are far more dangerous for them, because the Ukrainians now will have the weapons to hit these railway cars and these routes that they're going to be utilizing much closer to the front lines. So overall, today is a fantastic day, a great day for democracy and thus the world. And the United States has pledged that it will continue being a leader to global security. So overall, this is a huge win for us. This weekend was fantastic. So thank you for your support, guys. If you enjoy my channel, please subscribe. Please leave me a comment. Like my video if you enjoy my content, and I will see you guys in the next one. Slava Ukraini!